It's going to do the libation today. Thank you.
For me, to my ancestors, to my spirit guides, my spirit helpers, and to all members of my soul groups who I've yet to meet, those whom I've met, I say thank you. To the source, to the all, to the one, the creator, mother, father source, the one who simply is, the one who expresses itself in trees, in rocks, in mountains, in caves, in birds, lions, tigers, elephants, ants, all insect world, we acknowledge them. And I pour libation on the behalf of all peoples of Africa, all people of African heritage in the four corners of the world. And we call upon the four winds to let the message go over to each and every land where we're scattered, to let them know that today we are united, we are connected to the source, to the all, to the one, to our divine self, to our divine energy. And we pour libation to the source, to the all, to the one, to say thank you for keeping us going. Ashe. We pour libation to our faithful mother, Mother Earth and Mother Nature, for keeping us going, for keeping us grounded, for keeping the vibration of Africa alive in our souls and in our spirit, irrespective of what they've done to our minds. Yet Mother Earth keep the vibration going in us. Mother Nature sustain us and make sure that we got dispersed in lands that had the environment that was conducive to our cultural makeup and our physicality. So we pour libation to our great mothers, Mother Earth and Mother Nature. Ashe. We pour libation now to our other great mother, Mother Africa. Despite all that has been done, despite all that has been done to her, she has remained true and faithful to us, her children. And as she hears the words of what's been happening to us, when the birds and the wind carry news to her as to what is happening to her children in distant land, as time goes by, she starts to send the message out to us in spirit. And here we are together again. Through the gate of return, we pour libation to Great Mother Africa. Ashe. We pour libation to the Orishas, ever faithful. Even when we got caught up into the trap of Christianity and Islam, the Orishas have been working and working, and here we are united again to self. We pour libation to all the Orishas, and we let them know that we love them to the maximum. Ashe. Now, according to your ancestry, just take time out to remember all those on your mother's side, on your father's side. Even if you don't know their names, just say thank you and send them a wonderful love message, each and every one. To all our bloodline ancestors on our mother's side, we pour libation and say thank you. Ashe. To all our ancestors on our father's side, the seed carriers, the one is always on the front line of attack. To all the men in our midst, we say thank you for being the seed bearer of our nation. And we say thank you to the fathers going way back to the source. Ashe. And to all those who have been fighting for our liberation from before they left the shores of Africa, whilst they were there in the belly of the ships, they were fighting, and some came out fighting, and some who knew what was about to happen chose it to cut the journey short. We pour libation to each and every one of them today and say thank you. Ashe. Ashe.
Absolutely.
Tonight's main feature has all of these why many of you are here. Many of you are coming for the first time because you're coming to hear a presentation that has a message. It has a person who's there with a lot of actions, and where Dr. Umar Johnson wanted to take us, it makes sense. Last night, in a wide-ranging, passionate, and action-packed response from you, we were able to get a better sense of who Dr. Umar represents and what he wants to convey to the Pan-African world. Brothers and sisters, as a descendant from Frederick Douglass, it is my honor again to present Umar Johnson.
Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. It's been an honor to be with you
Once again.
for the past couple of days.
Once again.
Tomorrow, I head back to the United States, and I'm getting ready for a pretty big event in Brooklyn. Dr. Claude Anderson, who many of you know, who I consider to be one of the most useful and practical scholars we have today, and sincere, because he's about measurable progress and not just sharing the information. So he, as well as David Banner, one of our great conscious music producers, and myself, we're going to be speaking together in Brooklyn for the first time at the First AME Zion Church at 54 McDonough Street. It's going to be a powerful event. Some celebrities are expected to stop through, as I'm being told. And what we're going to do is we're going to use a portion of the proceeds from that Three Kings event, as we're calling it, that's going to take place on Saturday, June 6th. And for those of you who have friends and family in the States, you might want to invite them out to Brooklyn Saturday, June the 6th. But we're going to take a portion of the proceeds and use it towards the fundraising for the Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey RBG International Leadership Academy. So we've been asking folk in America, as I'm going to ask you here now, you might consider purchasing a ticket even if you cannot go, because the money is going to partly go to the school and partly go to the Black Boy College Tour. I now have the flyer for the Black Boy College Tour, and I spoke with many of you over the past 24 hours on WhatsApp and email who expressed interest in sending your son on my Black Boy College Tour. As I said yesterday, there will be two of them, a North Tour and a South Tour. 7 days, 7 nights, July 6th through the 13th and July 15th through the 21st. If you need the flyer to the tour so you can see exactly where we're going to be taking your sons, you can WhatsApp me, because that's the simplest way, because you don't get charged for that. So for those of you who have the app on your phone, WhatsApp, please add me by my phone number and you can just request the flyer. We're going to use a portion of the money from next Saturday's event in Brooklyn to pay for the Black Boy College Tour, because I want to make it as reasonable as possible for our parents, especially our single mothers who so desperately want their sons to be a part of this. So I'm hoping we do quite well on the 6th, and I think we will. I think we'll be blessed. Brooklyn is very special to me. In fact, I can't think of an event that I've ever had in Brooklyn that didn't sell out or didn't close to sell out. So I think we'll be blessed, and we're in a very large church, so we'll be able to handle the capacity that we're going to get in the new Black Panther Party. And I want to give a shout out to them, because they've always shown me a lot of love across the years. I got to give a shout out to the Nation of Islam. They've shown me a lot of love throughout the years, and there's several other organizations that whenever Dr. Umar Johnson goes to speak, they're always there to provide that security. However, moving more deeply into this year and more deeply into my work, I see the need to develop my own security force. And so Team Pan-African, we're in the process now and have been of developing our own internal security force, because at the end of the day, you can only trust the people who are right next to you. African Liberation Day, 40 years here in the UK. We've been celebrating it for about 50, 60 years in the United States. When you look at the history of African Liberation Day, and you look at the history of Pan-Africanism, you'll see that we've had some ups and we had some downs. One of the big issues right now, and I want to be honest with you all, there's a lot of countries in Africa, the governmental structure, that are not very supportive of repatriation. I was meeting with a non-governmental organization that works in the United Nations last year. And I sat down to have a conversation with this brother who's going to remain nameless, but very influential. And he showed me letters that he personally mailed off to the different heads of state in African countries. Some of them are still head of state, some of them have since been deposed, cooed out, or elected out of office. And I'll be honest with you, I was very, very concerned with some of the replies that he received. Some of them were supportive, but only a couple. A lot of them were lukewarm, not very motivating. And some of them flat out were not interested in investigating either dual citizenship or repatriation. There's a history to this stuff. There's a history. When I was in Liberia 2 Januaries ago, we had a lot of conversation about repatriation. And Africans in Liberia know very well the first-hand effects that can happen when black folk who've been Europeanized go back home to Africa. For those of you who know your Liberian history and your history of Sierra Leone, you know that when we left from the West and went back to Africa, many of us became the slave master in blackface, and wars were initiated, some of which lasted decades, between indigenous Africans and expatriates who were coming home, but sick with the disease of Europeanism, thought they had a right to dictate to their brothers and sisters how things would go down. So much so that even in Liberia today, if you have a name like Johnson or Smith or Williams, a marker that suggests you are a descendant of what they refer to as the Americo-Liberians, the descendants of the expatriates, you're given a certain type of respect that indigenous Africans do not get. Even now, there's a Cold War in Liberia, in Sierra Leone, between indigenous Africans and the descendants of the Americo-Liberians who came back home. So I understand the ambivalence of African governments towards repatriation and dual citizenship. But I also believe that we can do a lot to change their attitudes. And I think the most important thing we can do, if we really wanted to push the issue at the African Union, and I do want to say this about the African Union, going back to the days of Marcus Garvey before there was an AU, going back to the days of El Hajj, Malik Shabazz, years after Garvey, we got to be honest in our assessment of the African Union. Outside of meetings and outside of lip service and outside of flag waving, they haven't done much to push for either dual citizenship or repatriation. We got to be honest about that. We got to be very honest about that. And if we're going to critique and criticize their lack of enthusiasm, we have to equally critique and criticize our own lack of enthusiasm. Brother Malcolm once said, if you can't go back to Africa in the flesh, go back to Africa in the mind. I understood that for 1964. And I understood that for 1965. But today, it's not acceptable for you to just go back to Africa in mind when you can afford to go back in the flesh. So we have to be a lot more honest about our own commitment to Pan-Africanism. There's no excuse for you not to go back home and make that voyage. And it doesn't matter where you go at in Africa. I will admit that I think Ghana is probably the most receptive to Africans who have never been home before. Before I went to Ghana last year, I didn't quite understand the hype. Because I said there was revolutionary leaders, some of whom, when you study the history, were more revolutionary than Kwame Nkrumah, who have totally gotten overlooked in the Pan-African struggle. But after going to Ghana, I see why it has been a bastion of return for Africans, because the society is the most easiest to navigate when you talk about being reacclimated to your homeland. But I think, though, we would be doing ourselves a disservice if we did not look to Nigeria. We have to build a relationship with Nigeria for two primary reasons. Number one, I've been all over the continent, and I can tell you that the Nigerian, psychologically, whatever shortcomings you may have been told they have in the media, is the most revolutionary African on the continent. The Nigerian is the only African I've personally seen, by the numbers, put white folks in their place. The man who prepared Obama for the presidency. Read his book, The Grand Chessboard. Read his books. He articulates the threat, the sole threat, the only threat to global world white supremacy, the one world order. He says in his own words that the only thing that threatens this thing of ours is the operational, economic, and political coming together of Africans from Africa and those from Europe, Canada, and the United States. In other words, the burden of Pan-Africanism, ironically, is not on Africa. The burden of Pan-Africanism is on us outside of Africa. We are the solution, not from an arrogant, elitist standpoint, but from an economic, educational standpoint. When you look at the gross national product of Africans in the UK, even with our economic problems, you right here in the UK gross more than 80% of the African countries on the continent. Even with our economic problems in America, we're the richest group of Africans on the face of the earth. So when we say Africa for the Africans, we need to understand that that will never be a reality without the financial support of the UK, the United States, and the Canadas. But the question becomes, how long do we wait? As the sister who spoke early, we don't like those conversations, but that queen who spoke early, those are the conversations we like to have. We need to have the uncomfortable conversations about putting your money where your mouth is. The cultural part of Pan-Africanism, we got that. The historical part of Pan-Africanism, we got that. The spiritual side, we got that. But the economic side is still lacking. We're Pan-Africanism in name and in ceremony. We are not Pan-Africanists in practice. If we want to get those African countries to sign off on universal dual citizenship for everyone outside the continent, we got to give them something to put their faith in. We got to be able to say, guess what? Here's 10 million pounds. We want our own bank in the continent, and we want dual citizenship with the 10 million pounds. Then you get it. The problem with the African Union is that most countries who belong to it, which is just about everyone except Morocco and one other, is that they're dependent on America and the British Crown for economic support. So how do you expect them to pass universal dual citizenship when they need your oppressor to help them keep the country running? The only way you're going to change that is if you replace the oppressor as a source of financial incubation. If we don't put the money where our mouth is, we're going to die. Ain't no playing with it. You see what's going on in America? I just got a news feed while I'm sitting over here. Police officer in Cleveland, where I was a few weeks ago, shot 2 men, 167 bullets in the police, the court. This happened about a year or two ago, but the court yesterday or the day before found him totally innocent of the charges. He stood on top of a car, the cop, stood on top of the car and blasted through the windshield 167 times from what I'm reading. He walks free. Black folk in America got a problem too. You know why? Because they hate what's happening right now, but they still love the white man too much to even consider thinking about homeland. You ain't no different. All the hell you catch in the UK, you will not fix your senses remotely on even considering going the hell back home. And when we talk about repatriation, we're not talking about running away from your problems, because the white man is everywhere. So let's be clear. Repatriation is not no utopian vision. Repatriation says, I know I got to deal with the cracker back home too, but the difference between dealing with the cracker in Africa and the cracker in the UK is I got a whole lot more manpower in Africa than I got in the UK. That's what we saying. And if our brothers and sisters in Africa see that we are serious, they will fight with us. But they got to know we serious. Because you know what they told me in Ghana? You know what they told me in South Africa? You know what they told me in Senegal and Nigeria? What they told me in Ethiopia and Morocco? They said, you guys talk really well. I'm going to tell you what they told me. They said, y'all talk really well. Intellectually, y'all got it. But when it comes to sustained output and progress, you're very low with that. Y'all have the slogans and the mantra. Y'all can even come up with some Nicki Minaj coming off the boat. You think I want Africa with a whole bunch of brothers and sisters who don't know what they is sexually getting off the boat? That ain't no solution. Even some of you cultural nationalists, hair all wrapped up, nice dashiki, with some Gucci shoes and a Louis Vuitton book bag. What the hell is that? How you gonna be bougie and grassroots at the same time? And some of y'all crack it up because you like, I thought it was me. A $500 pocketbook with some mud cloth on it. That don't even make no sense. So we got to kill the contradictions. But I do want to say this. We have to start thinking like nations. That means we're going to have to do the dangerous work of Mr. Garvey and Malcolm. That means we're going to have to send emissaries, ambassadors, dignitaries to the United Nations and to Geneva to file complaints against these Western governments for crimes against humanity for what they do to us. We got to do that. We got to do that. We ain't done it in years. When Ferguson, Missouri happened, one of the reasons I respected the Ferguson Rebellion is because they forced the UN to investigate the white man's treatment of black folk in America. But it died after that because it was a moment, not a movement, brothers and sisters. We got to go back to that. We got to have a team of international lawyers. Their whole job is to make the case that we're owed reparations, not just slavery, not just colonialism, but modern day genocide right here and right now. Pay up, cracker. That's what we got to do.
Yes. That's the real issue.
The brother asked a question about reparations yesterday. Another issue I got about reparations, have we calculated?
Endless.
Have we calculated the cost of the psychological damage to African people as a result of slavery, colonialism, and modern day oppression? Because you do know the psychological damage can exceed the physical damage. The white man might owe us more for the psychological than he ever could for the economic.
Yes.
But another issue, when I look at the reparations case, I'm seeing too many guilty parties not being mentioned at all. How are you going to put together a reparations case and you don't mention a Roman Catholic Church and you talk about reparations? How are you going to talk about reparations and you ain't mention a single Arab government? How can you do that?
Yeah, now we're talking. Now you're talking.
That's not reparations.
Now you're talking.
That's a damn sellout waiting to happen. And then we got to take the reparations movements and put them into one. The CARICOM movement, the American one, the UK reparations piece, the one that's in Canada, right now, Montreal and Toronto. Make them one. Yes. And you don't sue in domestic court. You sue in international court. Surely, there's a tissue on the table. But what I find though, black folks so greedy for money that we don't want to take the time and prepare the case right. We just want to throw anything together and get a few dollars for ourselves. I don't want to have to build my first school in Africa. I wanted to do it in the States. And the reason I wanted to do it in the States is because I'm afraid that if I'm not there, so much of what they try to do to our boys that I'm able to help parents stop will start back up again.
Yeah, that's a normal course.
And if I gotta build it in Africa, I'm gonna feel guilty. I'm gonna feel like I abandoned all my little brothers and sisters in the States, yo. But at the same time, I gotta be honest. May 20th was 365 days. We raised 300,000 in 365. I appreciate that, but I still got a problem with it. Because black folks spend that much money in a day at the Chinese store, in a day at the Arab gas station, in a day at the Korean weave shops.
You're tuning in.
Black women spend over $8 billion a year on Korean hair, and I can only get 300,000 in the same year for your sons. So when I go to Ghana, I'm gonna sit down with the king. I'm expected, and we're gonna sit down with some of the educators in Ghana, and we're gonna.
That's right.
And we're going to look at building FDMG number 1 in Ghana. They promised me the land. They told me with the $300,000 that I've raised already, that might be enough under the currency exchange rate to build the school fully in Africa right now. As you know, because of the devaluation of currency, 300,000 US And African money is about 3 million already.
That's go so.
So if they give me an offer I can't refuse, I gotta take it.
Yes, that's
And so for those of you who are sending me resumes, fdmgresumes@gmail, I need you to indicate whether you would be willing to work at the school if it ends up in Africa. Now the problem with a school in Africa is the mental side of European and American black parents. They think they're running around naked. They think they live in trees. They think there's a machete war going on in every block. And so a lot of parents from here and America and Canada and the Caribbean will not feel comfortable enough to send their kids to Africa, even though the tuition will be 3 times cheaper in Africa than it would be in America. That's the irony. You would actually pay less in Africa than you would anywhere else. So I'm going to investigate that when we go back to Ghana for our naming ceremony and see what we get. But if I get an offer I can't refuse, I'm going to have to take it. And we're going to check out Tanzania too. I ain't got no problem with East Africa. It's all good for me anyway, because I can go over there and get 2 wives. I'm kidding. The other issue I want to address, and I don't want to be long because I know our time is shorter tonight, so bear with me for 10 minutes and that'll be all for me. I want to address this thing that's growing in the States, and I don't know if it's growing here, but it's growing in Canada, and that's this rebirth white female feminist movement that black women are joining by the days. Especially our college educated sisters. They don't need a man. The ones who say they don't need it, need him the most. You the thirstiest one in the hood talking about you don't need a damn man.
Now we all need somebody. Everybody's somebody.
Listen to me, black women.
Yeah.
When the white woman fought the white man back in the 1800s in America, Susan B. Anthony and them gave birth to the white woman's lib struggle, the feminist movement. I understood in the early 1900s when the white woman fought the white man for the right to vote, I understood. You know why? Because the white man controlled if the white woman worked. The white man controlled if the white woman left the house. The white man controlled if the white woman went to school. The white man controlled if the white woman could wear pants. The white man controlled if the white woman could go to church. He told her your place is in the home, making babies and cleaning the house. And because he ruled the society, he had the power to enforce it. But I'm trying to understand, where is the parallel for black women? Black women, by a show of hands, how many of you were told by your black man that you cannot get a job?
No, never. Never.
How many black men ever stopped a woman from going to college?
Never.
How many black men can really control what they women wear outside the house?
No.
So my point is, where is the parallel between the black woman and the white woman?
There's none.
There is no parallel.
There's none.
I did not say we don't have sexism in the black community. I did not say there's not a form of black female oppression that's conducted by black men and black conscious organizations. I didn't say that. I know it exists. I know black women are tired of only being the secretaries. I know black women are tired of only being the cooks. I know black women are tired of being in charge of the logistics. And you're tired of being the sexual objects.
Truly.
But don't you confuse that with a society, systematic program of legal enforcement to keep you in a certain position. If the black woman must challenge the black man, do that, sister. But don't do it with the white woman standing next to you. We fight by ourselves, side by side. It is not a black woman thing. It is not a black man thing. It is a black family thing. We do it together or we don't do it at all. That's how we roll. It's crazy in the States. The brothers are getting at the sisters, talking about she got a better job, she got a better education, so we gonna have a black man's movement. Now he want to blame the sister for everything wrong with his life as if he didn't play a role in it. And then the sister come back. It's a black man's thing. You sorry Negroes, we tired of you. And then the children looking at both of them. My mother can't stand my father. My father can't stand my mother. And by you fighting over that, putting masculine against feminine, you violate the basic principle of African cosmology. Yes. What do we believe as African people? Yes. That when supreme consciousness created the universe, God Almighty in her glory
Truly
took a feminine Adam and put it with a masculine one. Wow. And these two forces were linked together inside of the atom. So the basic building block of all creation is a perfect balance of masculine and feminine energy. For those of you who are Christian, the Bible talks to you in code. In the book of Genesis, when it says God first made Adam, they wasn't talking about a man, A-D-A-M. When they said God made Adam, they was talking about A-T-O-M, the perfect balance of masculine and feminine energy. God made the Adam, not Adam. In other words, God didn't make the man before the woman or the woman before the man. He made them for each other. We believe she don't exist without me. And we believe I don't exist without her. That's our foundation.
Yeah.
So we never had this thing about brothers beating up on sisters and sisters beating up on brothers. But black woman, you must put your case forward towards men. But do it not as a feminist. Do it as a womanist. And what is the difference between the womanist and the feminist? The feminist blames the black man for her problems. The womanist says, I know that God made the man for me, but I still have an obligation to make him the best man he can be. And I'm going to hold him accountable when he messes up, because when he messes up, he messes us up. So if the black woman needs to talk to us about domestic violence, sexual violence, black female oppression, and the black conscious movement, she got a right to speak on that. And brothers, we got a right to listen. You may have been put in charge, but put in charge does not mean you got a right to oppress anyone. When we look at many African cultures, righteousness is often personified in a female flesh. That means in order for there to be perfect law and order, there must be a strong feminine presence within the home, the church, and the black conscious organization for us to function in my eye. In righteousness, the woman is required. In fact, there's a tale in the Yoruba amongst the Ifa system that when the Creator made the world, the Iyami, the great divine mothers were put in charge of it. That in the beginning, women ran the cosmos. But some things happened and that was separated down the road. But there's a message in that. Have you ever looked at West Africa African art, and you notice whenever you see a great and powerful king, you even see it in Kemetic art. You might see a big, powerful pharaoh, but there was always a queen right next to him. And you go to the British Museum, you'll see the king, but if you turn him around, you'll see his woman in back of him holding him up. There's a message in that black man that your strength as a man can only be perfected with the support of a black woman. Which takes us to one other point, and I'm prepared to wrap up. If God created atom, A-T-O-M, with a perfect balance of masculine and feminine energy, and the first man and woman were African people, what happens when that African male energy chooses to atomize with the European female energy? You throw the whole system out of whack. See, one of my issues with black men loving non-black women is that, first of all, you don't look right together. That's the first thing. And the second thing, there's something more precious than gold in this world, and that's called melanin. It's the dark matter. It's the black sub of the universe. Why would a God take his melanin to his oppressor and put God's chemical in the womb of his oppressor? You got to deal with that at some point. Gotcha. You got to deal with that at some point. And then the biggest problem with it, and I deal with this as a therapist, is when the product of the interracial union is put into the world. That African child, they belong to us. I don't play the 50-50 game. And if you've ever studied genetic crossover, there's no such thing as a 50-50 split. When a dominant gene mixes with a recessive gene, it ain't no 50-50 nothing in there. That child is all but 100% African, and we got to understand that. But psychologically, there's a confusion when you come into the world with one parent who's oppressed and the other parent who's an oppressor. When one parent has been psychologically raped and the other one is the rapist. When one parent is God and the other one the devil. It creates a situation where that African child with the white parent never quite feels accepted by either culture. So we have to stop practicing a behavior that causes so much psychological violence in the minds of black children. And not only that, I think it is downright disrespectful for a black man to parade a European or any other woman in front of black women when we was going through slavery. The black woman Baptist, civil rights, the black woman Baptist, black power, the black woman Baptist, colonialism, the black woman Baptist. I don't care how liberal your white woman is. She can never totally understand the trials or the tribulations of a black man. You belong with the black woman, damn it, and stop making excuses. Talking about the system. They too strong. They too masculine. Well, guess what? If I would even open my mouth and accuse my queen of being more masculine than myself, I have just indicted myself as a purveyor of feminine homosexual energy by even saying some nonsense like that. In conclusion, I want to say this. We got 6 months left to go in this year. The number 6 is the number of Shango. In Yoruba, that's divine masculine energy of institutional development, economic strength and power, and balance of family. Shango rules 2015, so does Oya. The divine female warrior energy of the wind, the bringer of the change, the blesser of the marketplaces. I'm saying that to say what? That this is the year that we go to war, not necessarily physically, but spiritually, economically, politically. Now's the time! Now's the time! Now's the time! We have the blessings of the universe. Yes. Baltimore had to happen. Cleveland had to happen. There's going to be more chaos, and not in a negative sense, but in order for righteousness to come back to the world, the spirit has to wipe out evil. And it ain't going to wipe it out with marching or praying. It's going to wipe it out by force. So I'm saying, Birmingham, I'm saying UK, shoulder to shoulder, lock, shoulder, foot, man, woman, child, organization. Let's stand as one African people. We can win this. I know the white man been in charge for a long time. But when you compare the rule of the European to the rule of the largest dynasties on earth, it's but a sprinkling of a second. We will overcome the white man once our collective consciousness has vibrated to a point where even the heavens have to submit to the will of African people. When we decide in mind, body, and spirit that we have had enough, we will be put back where we belong. I didn't say some people wasn't going to die. I didn't say some of us wasn't going to go to jail. I didn't say some of us were not going to lose our jobs, but I will say this. Our ancestors, although we call their names, are very disappointed in us because we have not kept up the fight the way that they did it, and simply pouring libation is not enough to pay respect to those who laid the grass.
Word for one.
Shaka Zulu said, we win or we die. There is no middle ground. Harriet Tubman said, I had a right to 2 things. And if I couldn't have one, I would have the other. Freedom or death. When you stop being complacent with second-class citizenship, freedom will be yours. But as long as you keep occupying the 3rd rung of existence, you will never be the respected people you deserve to be. Brothers and sisters, Marcus Messiah said it best. He said, without confidence in yourself, you are twice defeated in the race of life. But with confidence in your African self, you have won even before you have started. So at the end of the day, oppression is a participatory event. There could be no oppressor. There can be no oppressor without an oppressed people who are willing to participate. Birmingham, England, I thank you. Dr. Umar, Ashe, 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 black people. Up, 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 up. You mighty race, you can accomplish what you will.
I'm done.